Hey, 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 Chef Shelley here. If we're just meeting for the first time, I'm a personal chef and I help passionate home cooks become personal chefs so they can follow their passion and get paid to cook too. So today I'm talking about parties. We are rapidly heading into the holiday season and I know you're going to want to be doing some entertaining, and I want to help you avoid epic party fail by running out of food. So if you have friends who like to entertain too, share this out, because the last thing you want is for them to invite you over and have them run out of food. So this could seriously benefit everybody. So I am actually going to challenge myself this Thursday to answer questions during the live. So I have like 5 devices here showing me Facebook, and we'll see if I can actually do this. And you know it's an idle threat, and I'm probably not going to be able to, but we're going to try it anyway. So by the time this maybe 10-minute video is over, you are going to be able to know the 4 what I think most important things are to calculating the quantities for the food you need at your next event. So I would say death, speaking in public, and running out of food at your party are probably the 3 top fears of womankind. So I can't help you with the first 2, but hopefully after this, I'll be able to help you with that last one. So, you know, there are a lot of things that come together when you're trying to throw a party. You're trying to pick the right date. You're hoping for a good mix of guests so that everybody has a good time. You probably do decorations or at least clean your house. I don't do that, but I'm betting you're better than I am, and I'm betting you do that for your friends. You worry about what beverages to serve and having enough and all music, all this stuff. But when it comes right down to it, the most important thing is the food. And yeah, I know I'm a little bit biased, but food is hugely important, and there's a million things to think about. You think about how many different things to serve and how much of each one you should have, and what about your friend who is allergic to everything and vegan and gluten-free this week? What in the world is she gonna eat? And you know, it's like Facebook says, it's complicated. So one of my favorite parties to have, and I bet yours is too, is an appetizer party, because then we get to fuss with all the different fun little foods. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to say appetizers, I'm going to say hors d'oeuvres, I'm going to say cocktail party, and all this stuff for the sake of this is going to be the same thing, all right? In the written stuff, I probably always say appetizers because spelling hors d'oeuvres is a pain in the French butt. So they're great because you can provide a whole bunch of different choices to meet all your guests' needs. You can have cold stuff, hot stuff. You can be really fancy and have past stuffs. It's just one of the most fun types of parties food-wise that you can have. But it can be the hardest to guesstimate food because you're working with all those different little things. So the following are what I think are the top 3 things you need to take into consideration when you're trying to figure this out for your party. And on a side note, there are a lot of like online calculators that'll try to tell you how much to have, but a lot of them don't even take this stuff into consideration. And I think this can be like the make or break stuff. So this is definitely, whether you're making it yourself, you're buying the food, or you're hiring someone to make it, you want to take this into consideration. So number 1 is the time of day. So if you're having a party from, say, 2 to 4 in the afternoon, it's not lunch, it's not dinner. You can just serve light refreshments, you know. If it's maybe cocktail hour and then people are leaving, you know, hopefully leaving, so it's just like from 5 to 6 or 7, that's not dinner time. So you don't need to worry about providing a whole meal for people. Medium hors d'oeuvres are fine because they're gonna leave and go eat after that. Now, if it's over the lunch hour, if it's into dinner time, that's when you're gonna need to hit heavy hors d'oeuvres, because that is replacing a meal for people. So also you're going to want to consider the length. If it's just an hour, you don't need to have nearly as much food as you do for a 3-hour event. And also the type of guests. I promise, no matter what time your event is, no matter how long it is, seniors are going to eat more than kids, but adults are going to eat more than seniors. College and high school kids are going to eat more than everybody put together. Generally, men eat more than women. This is also something, your guest mix, you're going to want to take into consideration. So, finally, appetizer selection. So let's talk about that. Not only are you going to consider your whole party as light hors d'oeuvres or heavy hors d'oeuvres or whatever, but each type of appetizer kind of falls into that classification too, and you want to have a good balance. So light appetizers are things like chippy things with a light dip and nut type things, anything like snack mix, popcorn, chips, gougères, pommes, veggies and dip, endive with gorgonzola and walnuts, savory biscotti, any little snacky things like that, that would be considered something lighter. Now, when you start putting your chips with something like a tasty, heavy queso, that's when you're getting more into medium. We're talking dips in bread bowls, cheese and crackers, mini quiche, bruschetta, caprese, even little things like smoked salmon on toast points, or little puff pastry type things, or prosciutto wrapped melon. Just the melon would be a lighter thing, fruit, but when you start wrapping it in meat or putting cheese together with something, then it starts to get a little more medium. Then you start getting into the heavy. These would be a lot of protein-oriented things or protein in bread, like empanadas, chicken satay, shrimp, meatballs. When you start wrapping things in meat, like I said, like this is asparagus wrapped in a very thin herbed egg crepe with prosciutto, that's a lot going on in one thing. But that's also, you're adding egg and a protein to a veg, that's getting to be pretty heavy. And yummy things like arancini, the Italian breaded and deep fried risotto balls. Yum! If you're into frying, those are spectacular. They're also pretty heavy. Lamb lollipops, pigs in a blanket, any of that type of stuff is heavier. So you're going to want to have a good mix if you're doing an event that calls for more substantial appetizers. So let's say you're having your book club over, or just a small group of women, and it's maybe in between lunch and dinner, like in the afternoon. So you don't need to provide heavy hors d'oeuvres. You don't need to do something like chicken satay or, quiche or whatever, because again, it's in between meal times, and women tend to be, not me, but regular women tend to be a little bit lighter eaters, especially in between meals. So you might want to do something like nuts and snack mixes, maybe a little fruit, something just like finger foody, and then maybe if you're serving tea and coffee, a little something sweet would be nice. But let's say you're doing a cocktail party for maybe 30 friends, so like 15 couples or whatever. We got the men and women, and it's going to be from like 5 to 7. Maybe something is going on later, so they're not going to be staying for dinner, because sometimes it's hard to guarantee when you're going to be able to get people out. But for the sake of argument for this, let's say. So right there you've got 2 hours, all adults, a mix of men and women, but not a main meal time. So you can really stick to medium hors d'oeuvres. You do not need to go crazy and do 15 different types of hors d'oeuvres with 10 of them being on the heavy side, because this is not supposed to be a meal. So something you might consider there, that it would be good to have like maybe 5 or 7 different kinds. Maybe 1 or 2 lighter, like chips or something on toast points, and then it's a cocktail party, so you're going to be serving alcohol. You're going to want to be serving something bready, like either bruschetta or a heavy dip with a bread bowl, something to, slow people down a little bit. And then maybe, since there are going to be men there, and God knows they will complain, a couple meaty things like teriyaki skewers or something heavier, so that it's a little bit more substantial. But again, 5 to 7, you are not providing dinner. Now, I know saying that might freak you out a little bit. So the best thing you can do when you are entertaining is to set your guests' expectations. You do this by putting something on the invite or evite, or when you're telling them, like if it was your book club in the afternoon, light refreshments will be served or something like that, so that people know not to fast for 3 days and show up with doggy bags and coolers to take food home. Dude, I have seen weirder things. I am not kidding you. Especially if you're doing something like for a business, like a small business who's having a ribbon cutting or maybe a church thing. People can get a little weird around free food at public places like that. So you definitely want to set their expectations. Another easy way to do that is to provide the proper plate size. This is, I think, a 10-inch plate. This is a dinner plate. You do not want to set out light hors d'oeuvres and hand these to people, because the first 3 people through will take all of it and then there will be nothing left. You want to stick with a 6-inch or smaller luncheon, or smaller even sized cocktail plate. Yeah, someone can go through and pile their plate up 3 feet high. We all know it's going to happen. You know that guy that's going to do it. But in general, this helps set people's expectations toward moderation. They are not going to starve to death. So that's a lot to say about this, but I know no matter what I tell you, no matter how much you plan, no matter how confident you are in your choices, we all freak out a little bit about running out of food. So here are some pro tips on how you can, if not save your party, at least give yourself a buffer to make yourself feel better. Cheese and crackers can go a long way towards fluffing up the food if it's getting a little lean. And the great thing about that is crackers are pantry stable. Cheese lasts a long, long time. So if you don't end up using it, you don't have to worry that it's immediately going to go bad or feel the need to eat it the next morning for breakfast when, you might have a little headache from your little cocktail party. Not that you would do that. Again, you are a better person than I am. We've gone over that. So cheese and crackers or something like that. Second, if you are really concerned, you can keep some backup easy frozen appetizers like from Costco in your freezer and just throw them in the oven. And that's a little bit nicer, fancier, maybe more filling if you need it. At a very last resort, if a ton more people than you expected are shown up and the buffet is just looking grim, send a friend to the store and have them pick up a few trays. It's fine. Everybody's just mainly there to have a good time. You don't need to worry that much about it. But armed with all this knowledge, you can boldly plan your next event, confident that you will have enough food. I'm sure. Can I guarantee that? Of course not. But this will all set you up to be calm, be confident in your choices, so that the only thing you really need to worry about is whether anyone's going to show up to your party. But that is an entirely different video, and we are not covering that today. So the example that I went through of like a cocktail party for 30 people and types of appetizers that I said is all lined out in a PDF if you want, because I know it's kind of a lot to try to take in and visualize while I'm rambling on because I've had too much coffee and I'm talking way too fast. So you can go to my Facebook group, Cooks Collective, and in the file section, there's a PDF download that you can pull and look at it. And also underneath this, I'm going to put some links to some of those recipes that I talked about for some tasty apps, if anything that I showed you a picture of or talked about particularly whet your appetite. And if you have any questions, what do you think? Let's see if I can go through and my poor first generation iPad, loading. All right, well, it's doing something. but I can't load any questions. You know how there's kind of a delay or whatever. So don't worry. After I get off this, I'll go through it. I'll put those links in. I'll answer any questions you have. If you have a specific party situation that you want some input on, I'm more than happy to talk about quantities or suggestions or whatever you want. Facebook page, in the group Cooks Collective, I'm here for you. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next Thursday, approximately same time, but definitely same place. Cheers.